I have to get out now. We have to go now. I want out now. I'm scared. I need to go. Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. I'm actually so surprised by how many people are watching my Algeria videos. I thought just a few people on my Facebook friends would watch it and then that would be it. It was mostly just for me to collect my thoughts and summarize my trip for myself, but I'm really glad that other people are enjoying it. So I decided to do another video about traveling during the coronavirus pandemic. We knew the virus was happening, but we didn't know that the virus would spread so quickly, so fast, and then it was going to be declared a pandemic. Who thinks in their lifetime that they're going to live through a pandemic? Nobody. So it was mostly in China and Italy, so I wasn't really worried about going to Algeria. I think at the time that I left, there was one case in Algeria. However, my family was nervous that I was going to be traveling during this virus. At the time, it wasn't considered a pandemic, but now it is. But I knew that nothing would hurt if I was making sure that I had Germ-X and sanitary wipes. And I used these at the airport. I wiped down my chair. I wiped down the tray where your food goes on the airplane. I used Germ-X anytime that I touched something that a lot of other people touched and I couldn't wash my hands. I didn't have a face mask at the time because I read that it's not really effective unless you have it and it prevents you from spreading it. Let me clarify, I really wasn't worried about it at all. And really, I'm still not worried about it. I am worried about it in a way, if that makes sense, but I know it's there. I'm aware of it. I'm conscious of it. My heart breaks for the people who have had it, the family members who are passing away, family members who are not allowed to see each other. I feel that, but I'm trying not to ruminate on it because I'm trying to use this time to rejuvenate instead of wear myself out with the heaviness of what's going on. One morning on the trip, I woke up and I had several text messages from people back in the States asking, did I see about the border closing? And Trump declared that all borders are closing, no flights in or out, all this stuff. And it was confusing because people sent me things that weren't necessarily true. They were sending me misinformation. So at the time, whenever he first closed the borders, nobody was worried about it because we were American citizens and we were going to be allowed back in the United States anyway. So the guy who was making sure we were okay and the guy who was over the trip and the company sent everyone a video in the group chat, and he was saying that Algeria might close their borders in the next 24 to 48 hours and that we should find a way to get back home as soon as possible because they didn't know what could happen in the next 2 days or the next 2 weeks. And if we were to get stuck in Algeria, we wouldn't know if we would be there for 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months. So he was really urging everyone to go ahead and find a way to get home. So after that video, we all had a meeting together and people were starting to panic. There were a few people who were panicked more than others. Different people channel their energy differently, so it was an interesting group dynamic.
I want to get stuck in Algeria. Please let me get stuck in Algeria. Please let me get stuck in Algeria. Please let me get stuck in Algeria.
I mean, that's what I was saying out loud because I cope with humor. So I was like, ha ha ha, I want to get stuck in Algeria. So it's interesting because another reason that some people were panicking is because there were a lot of news things going around said that whenever you came from a different country, especially ones that were affected by the coronavirus, you would have to quarantine for 14 days. And there was some discrepancy because people didn't know if they were going to be quarantined in a hospital or if they were going to be self-quarantined. So finally that got straightened out and everybody understood that they would be self-quarantined. We still kept in contact for the first 2 weeks to make sure everything was okay because we were really really what it felt like was isolation. You know, you can't love on your family members, anything like that. So we made sure to check on each other. So I still haven't been able to go see my family after this trip. I had like some pastries and some dates from Algeria that I wanted to share with them, but unfortunately, or fortunately for me, I got to eat a lot of that. But I wasn't able to share that with the people that I brought it to, so that's kind of sad. I know that better days are ahead and this will get better. I just don't know how long it's going to take. So I got a flight back to the States, and there was all kinds of things on the news about how people were having to stand in line for hours upon hours upon hours to be tested, to be for their temperature to be taken, and all this stuff. So people were a little nervous, especially I know I was nervous for this because I didn't want to miss my connecting flight. Whenever I got to Atlanta from Paris, there was an announcement that we could not leave the airplane until we filled out a piece of paper with information. And after we did that, we could leave the airplane.
You will receive a card or flyer detailing how to check your temperature, health status for the next 2 weeks. You may also receive additional health screenings. Thank you for your cooperation, which is essential in our efforts to slow COVID-19 spread.
So the questionnaire asked what seat we sat in, what our name was, what country we came from, had we had a fever, had we had a cough, and had we been to China or Italy. And there was a part down at the bottom for the person who was outside to take our temperature and record it on the paper. So I was like, oh my gosh, all of us on this airplane, which was very empty, but there were still a lot of people. There was a lot of seats open. Like, there was barely anybody on this airplane, but it was still a lot of people because it's an international flight and those airplanes are huge. I was like, oh my gosh, all these people are going to have to stand in line to get their temperature taken, and then it's going to have to get wrote down, and then it's going to have to be signed, and then we're going to have to go through customs, and then I'm going to have to go find my other flight. So I was like, there is no way that I'm making my connecting flight. They did not take our temperature. It was a little concerning to me that they didn't take our temperature, but they did not take our temperature. I will insert a video of what it looked like whenever I got out of the airplane. It really wasn't much. The people were just standing there with gloves on and a face mask to take our papers. And then after you get through the little gate, there was a room that had interview room on it, and some people were pulled aside to go in there, and I don't know if that was just random or if it's because they looked unhealthy or they said they had had a cough or anything like that. But fortunately, I was able to go through there, go to the passport control, and get to my connecting flight. So on both of my flights, on my international flight, there were two young girls who were sitting by me, but they eventually moved to other seats because there were so many seats open. So I got a whole row to myself. And then on my connecting flight from Atlanta to Cincinnati, there was nobody who sat beside of me, so I got a row to myself. I just totally forgot this. There was this young guy who was, I say young, but he was probably older than me, but I'm an old woman in my heart, so he was young because I could tell he was young. He was doing this the whole time, and he was doing a little cough, but I knew he wasn't covering his mouth. And I really, really wanted to turn around and ask him to cover his mouth, but I went to sleep instead, prayed and hoped for the best, and I slept for most of the plane ride. Thankfully, all of this happened at the very end of our trip. So it would have been very unfortunate and heartbreaking if it would have been in the middle of our trip and we had to leave then. So I'm very thankful for that. I always try to see the good in the bad. I'm sending my prayers to everyone. I'm sending my prayers to Algeria, to Italy, to the United States. I'm sending my prayers to you. I'm trying to stay in a good mindset because there's no use in being in a bad mindset because this is nothing that I control. The only thing that I can do is to control how I react. and I'm reacting by showing love and taking care of everyone around me. Even though they're not physically around me, I try to check in on my friends. I've tried to just keep conversation for people who I know don't live with anyone. So I encourage you to do the same. If you have a friend that you know lives by themselves or they live in a hard-hit area, to text them and just make sure they're okay. And even though you can't really do anything for them or anything like that, it's really the thought that counts. And maybe just a simple hello or how are you will change someone's day, because during this time everything is so unpredictable. So I'm a little different from most people traveling during all this. I was nervous, I was stressed. I didn't know if I was going to get a flight back home. I didn't know if I was going to be able to change my flight. I didn't know anything like this. But also I wasn't as panicked as some people. They were just focused on getting out. And I understand that. I do. I completely understand. If you live in Algeria and you're watching this,
please send me some dates.
I'm going home. I'm so sad. Okay, I'm not gonna cry, but I'm gonna miss Algeria. Okay. Toodles. Until next time.